Welcome to Wizard Team, a Black magical podcast for Black magical stories.
Hi everyone, it's Bayana, Robyn, and Porshèa embarking on a journey through the many fantasy stories written by and about Black people. Currently, we're reading Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, and today we're discussing chapters 18 through 20.
So, let's do a quick 90-second or less brief recap. We'll see if we can do it this time. This is a trial. So if I'm over the 90 seconds, don't. This is not like a pizza delivery. You can't hold us accountable. We do not have any freebies.
Pull up a stopwatch on your mark.
I don't have a stopwatch.
90 seconds is a minute and a half, right? So on your mark.
Yeah.
Get set. Go.
Wait, I got my timer. I was about to pull up my timer. Cool. So, where we last left off, Bree is helped by William, who is, again, a fave. And a fave that is earned because he heals her, promises not to tell Sel about her shenanigans, gives her a good supply of tea, like piping hot, not quite, but it is warm tea, and explains how Legendborns work. That includes the spell of eternity, which means that the OG round table that was around when Arthur was around is awakened in their, not reincarnations, but the scions who are able to embody them. And then they also have this has been a cycle because they're trying to defend against the imagining of Camlon, which is the final battle against demons that happens whenever every single person in the order, including Arthur, is awakened, and the last time that happened was like in the 1700s. Sarah takes Bree back to her dorm after the trauma that she's gone through with her, like within her first couple of hours as part of the order, which we love for her. No, we don't. And Sel also turns up on campus and threatens Bree with murder after Bree has witnessed him both murder, decapitate, and disembody a being. So, also hate that for Bree. Alice finally shows concern for Bree because Bree is highly traumatized. Looks like she's been through a ringer. Has like oozing blood and pus on her body, but not even like human blood, like just like the demon blood. And it's not only is it on her body, it's also on her hair. So now she has to do and perform an impromptu wash night on her hair, which has to be past midnight.
She has to get
in the
deep
shower.
in there too because it's like muck. It's not like just regular oil and
No, it's demon blood.
build up. It's demon blood.
It is a residue there is no product line for demon hair, for natural hair wash for demon blood. Like there's nothing that, like, if it exists, the order doesn't have it because they don't care about natural hair products. Bree's the first Black person they've seen come through this chapter, and it's the main. Let's not go into it too much because then we'll go past this 90 seconds. I'm sorry. And then also, finally, as Bree is wrestling with the entanglements in her hair, she's also having to reckon with the entanglement of her body suddenly manifesting like mage fire while she's in the shower, going through the stress of a wash night, washing off demon blood for the first time, and all the trauma she's processing from her past 48 hours. And that's where we left.
Good job.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, my timer had gone off, but we'll do better. We'll practice makes perfect and everything. It's a great first attempt.
I think with the intention to do that, it also just helps because we also don't chime in as much because we know like okay we got it.
But also like we can probably figure out a way to do it where it's kind of like I don't know if y'all did saw the recaps on Glee, but like, and that's what you missed last time on Glee, and then it comes into the next part.
I did love this. Okay, so we start in chapter 18, and Bree wakes up and is like, "Oh shit, I might be in trouble." And I love like how it kind of starts, just because she really understands now, like, what she's gotten her, not, I don't know if she fully understands what she's gotten herself into, but she really does understand, like,
that she doesn't completely know.
That she doesn't completely know, and that,
it's deep.
And that it's more, I think, dangerous than she, I think there's something about being young in general, but also just being human, because we just saw this with, like, you know, COVID. There's this mass disabling event, and people are like, it's not going to be that bad, or it's not going to affect me type of thing. I don't know what that's called, like, ego or whatever. Younger kids have it really bad.
Delulu. Everyone's a little bit Delulu.
Yeah, hubris, ego, I don't know what it is, but, like, teenagers definitely have that in spades, and so she's like, oh, shit. So she makes up another rule.
Her whole life, like, when you're a child and you get to teenage years, up into teenage years, everyone's told you how much things are, like, dangerous, and then you realize, like, some people think more things are dangerous than you think are dangerous, so then you're like, I'm gonna play around with it. I'm a teenager. I'm almost an adult. I can make decisions about what is dangerous or not for me. You don't have to tell me it's dangerous. I'll figure it out for myself.
And easy peasy, you know what I mean? Not only is it dangerous, but it's gonna be easy, you know? So she realizes just how difficult of a situation she's in. She kind of, like, she's like, okay, I have sight, I can resist mesmer, I can resist oaths, and now apparently I can call ether. So she decides on a new rule. Rule 4, never ever let anyone see ether pouring out of my skin like burning blood. Because that's just how shook she is after that happened in the shower, and because she's like, no, I'm in danger, girl.
Also, is it just me, or is this shower scene kind of giving Carrie when she, like, has, has her period for the first time? Bree's having the mage magic for the first time. It's red, it's oozing, it's coming out of her body in the shower, and she's trying to figure out what to do with it.
I think it's adorable that you think I've seen Carrie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But, sure. If you say so, I believe you.
Carrie's not even that scary. It's like a good revenge film. It is revenge. Revenge.
Honey, sweetheart, child. Oh, what you want me to do with that, but okay. So her phone rings and she's looking at it, and I kind of love this part where she's like, my phone rings, I frown. It died at the lodge, and I don't remember plugging it in last night, because at least she is a bit aware of how ridiculous her phone etiquette is.
She's really bad with it. Like, it's
because she's like, I know the thing ain't ringing when I know it died, and I did not.
And how did you let it? Okay.
I let my phone die sometimes, but not when I'm out.
Yes, but not when you're out in the middle of the woods and you don't know the people around you.
Yeah. White folk in hoods.
On reconnaissance.
She was already there, though. She already put herself in a position to be surrounded by white folks in the woods. Like, she did that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you needed to have your phone charged at least.
Because
even if the demons didn't show up,
you
just
needed
to have your phone charged.
Even if you're doing it alone, the phone is a GPS so they can find the body.
I just need...
It pings from a tower, and at least they have some sort of, like, radius where they can start looking for your body. You know? I'm just saying. Don't let your phone die when you're going on, you know, reconnaissance.
A stealth mission.
Stealth mission.
What are you doing?
It's not stealth, but whatever this
Where's your guy in the chair? If you're on a stealth mission, where's your guy in the chair? Where is your backup? Like, you don't go on stealth missions by yourself.
Well, and sometimes you would have your phone charged to talk to that person. It's just T-Mobile and a warrant. Like, sometimes that's all you got. So her dad is on the phone. Well, Alice says, I saw that it was dead. I charged it for you. And gives her Bojangles. Like, the friendship is friendship. You're like, okay, I understand how y'all got to this best friend part. She's now like, okay, I've said my piece. You know I'm not exactly happy with this, but you came home looking rough, and now I'm all in on caretaking. It's fine. You're not going to listen to me, but at least I'm going to make sure you're not dead. So her dad
and your phone isn't dead either.
And that your phone isn't dead. That you nor your phone are dead. Come on. And I wouldn't be surprised if you listened to us last episode. I wouldn't be surprised if Alice put a tag on her phone
That's what I'm
while
saying.
she was sleeping.
You got to.
I need for at least, like, now that, like, Alice knows more, like, now, like, in the spoiler zone of, like, blood marks and everything, I just need for when Alice is back conscious to automatically be like, we need to put multiple air tags on Bree stuff. And I'm gonna put it on her wallet. I'm gonna put it so many places. We're gonna
put it
air
in
tags.
her shoes.
Yes.
I've thought about this a lot. And if I'm worried about you to the point where I'm gonna be having an air tag on you, I'm gonna put it under the soles of your shoes.
New inserts.
I'm just saying.
Like, I have a concern about your walking, and I see your gait's a little off, so here's some nice... I put some new inserts in there. I hope you like them.
Mm-hmm. There you go. So her dad is like, honey, baby child, boo-boo, you have got to be joking me.
Like, you're not being serious.
You are not being serious right now. Be for fucking real. It's basically, if I was going to sum up this conversation on the phone with her dad, it is be for fucking real. So he was like, searches her mind.
Like he said last time, he was like, I was born at night, but not last night.
Wait, come on.
Not last night. But so she's
been 4 days and you haven't called me back. Or it's been 4 days and all this mess has been happening. And you haven't called me.
And the last conversation they had was, oh, I'll call you back. I gotta go to dinner.
Yes. Right. And then here she is running after hellhounds and making O's in the middle of the woods. Like, come get her, honestly.
And get snatched up again. 4 nights, 2 of them ended with her getting snatched by a demon.
You stressed out a white boy that didn't even know you like that. That's how bad you got. Like, you stressed out your would-be peer mentor. He just met you 2 hours ago, and you ran towards a hellhound. That's how much you've been doing.
Bree been giving folks, giving all of North Carolina ulcers, and they don't even know why. I don't know why, but I just have this feeling in my stomach. So she finally, though, I do appreciate this, she realizes, like, okay, I need to come up with something, and it needs to be close-ish to the truth. And so she says, you know, that peer mentor that I had, his dad went here, and he's something sort of like a big deal here still. And so they got me into one of those secret societies. I'm in a secret society. I can't really tell you much about it right now. It's still very early on, but that's what's been going on. It's like a cotillion type of thing. Lots of really important people, Dad. Should set me up in the future. And he's like, that's cute, that's great, love that for you. You are going to therapy twice a week. Already set it up. You will be getting a phone call.
This is non-negotiable. Non-negotiable.
Sure, I'm sure that I know that's part of the whole early college thing is joining a club. Don't care. Your therapist will be calling you. It's twice a week. Oh, and she knew your mother. Which is great because at first, Bree is already like, I don't need no. Oh wait, she knew my mom. Okay,
right.
We could.
He knew exactly how to get lack of fight, no fighting.
He
was like, you know what? She's black. I was looking for her because I was looking for a black therapist, but as a bonus,
his selling point for himself was she's a black woman.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
One of the few on the website that I saw. Bonus. I only saw her. And she's about to be your therapist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she's like, this doctor named Mom, her father's voice softened the first time on the call. Sure did, kiddo. Said they had a few classes together, believe it or not. Thought that was real nice, so that's why I picked her. That, and she's a black gal, not too many of us on that website, like you said. And she was like, oh. Nope, I want to meet her. So, she gets off the call with her dad, waves goodbye to Alice, gives her a thumbs up, everything's good on the home and home friend front right now. Finally looks at her phone. She's a little
irritated with Alice, though, about calling her dad, but at this point, I'm like, nah, Alice is right.
Alice is right.
It's very convenient that you're
like,
annoyed.
Also, you can't be annoyed by
her dad was like, don't get upset at Alice. Alice was like, I was worried. You came in looking rough.
You came in with just looking like somebody drug you through the forest. So what else am I supposed to do?
I don't know. I did what I thought was.
I did my due diligence, and I am not sorry. I ain't sorry. I'll choose Beyonce. I am not sorry.
She's like, and I do it again.
No, for real.
It's
But I
like,
think she should have called sooner, but
Yeah.
at least she called now.
I love the
Right.
coordination, though, because she, like, charged Bree's phone, and then she was like, Mr. Matthews, Bree's phone is now charged. You may call her.
And then said, let me go get some biscuits so that just to soften the
I mean, Charlotte, can you go pick up some Bojangles, because Bree about to get this phone call. At least she gonna have a Bowberry biscuit to go with it. Porshèa, our resident Southerner, can you please explain? I don't know if you've had Bojangles, but it felt like if someone had gone to, like, homeroom and brought me some mac and cheese.
I don't know what no homeroom is now. I
was gonna say I don't even know if it. I was gonna say homeroom is not like a franchise, so I feel like that also.
Oh yeah. I don't know what the Ikes. What's the quickly for Bayana, but not for me because I don't like boba. But yeah.
Oh, boba.
That's for me.
Oh.
A Dunkin' coffee. I think we can all. Where it's like, yeah, you could get them. It's pretty easily accessible, except for in San Diego, we only have 3 of those Johns. But like, it's pretty easily accessible. But it's like you didn't just go get a biscuit. You
didn't go to McDonald's.
Yes.
Although McDonald's, you have to hit their breakfast hours. If you miss the breakfast hours at McDonald's, you will be left out. So that's also kind of exclusive, even though it's McDonald's. However, I'm like, I don't know. The South is weird because we do have a lot of restaurants in common with other states among the South, but then Bojangles was not a Tennessee thing. It was like, at least whenever I was living there. But I like, whenever and Ridley, when I went to Philly for the first time, it was the first time I went to Bojangles because there was a Bojangles in Philly. So I don't think they had a blueberry biscuit at the time though. But every time I read the blueberry biscuit thing, like how Bree's attention span went from betrayal, deception, ooh, blueberry, ooh, warm, oh, nice. I do also am with her, and I'm like, do I want a blueberry biscuit right now? Because it sounds like I should also have a blueberry biscuit. So I think it was sold compellingly, even if you don't have that.
Even if you don't know exactly what that signifies. You understood what the like, that she got, like, and especially I think too when you are a freshman in college or just in college and you're like, I mean, they're only 4 days in, but even I think that first week getting used to like food hall, mess hall, like food, dorm food was really difficult. And like, I don't know what North Carolina UNC looks like, but I know like at IU where I went to school, it wasn't difficult to get like fast food, but you definitely have to go off campus, and if you're in a bigger campus, going off campus is a trek, which is like you got to get on the bus, you got to do this, and like as much as like you said, like I love me some McDonald's fries when I'm feeling like I need to eat my feelings and I want like junk food to soothe as a balm for my soul. I can never get myself to spend 30 minutes on a bus for McDonald's fries. Like it just couldn't happen. And so
especially in the days pre like Uber Eats or whatever, so you're just like, drop them suckers off. I will pay the extra expense for someone to bring me my food just because I want it that badly. But if like in the days pre those apps, like same for my campus was out in the woodwork of Pennsylvania, and so you would have to take like a campus little shuttle bus to go into like the town to get stuff, and it's like why you gotta plan in advance just to get the dang bus, and it's like, why do I have to go through all this? It's
for biscuits.
It's for
right.
Is it really?
But Charlotte has a car. Alice is a good friend. She got herself a Bowberry biscuit.
And I love how both Charlotte and Alice probably are both working from like guilt for Bree as well. Like they're like, okay, like this is gonna
Charlotte's like, I did get her in trouble.
Yeah. So she notices that she has 4 calls and a voicemail from Nick, 11 texts, also from Nick. She listens to the voicemail, and he sounds slightly out of breath. B, tonight was, I guess, I just want to check in. I'm glad you're safe. I don't know where to start. Call me, please, or text, whichever. He is shooketh.
Bro.
He is.
I just want to say, very unfortunate for me. I felt it was very unfortunate. I was like, no, Nick, especially like this little section we're about to read. I'm saying it now, and then we're gonna get into it further later. But like, Nick hits all the right fictional, like, love interest spots for me, personally. I'm just like, I don't know what to say.
If he wasn't blonde,
That's
Porshèa might
hello.
agree as well. But, you know.
It's honestly a little, like, distressing. When I first read this book, I was just like, bro, what? How did I get here?
A white man? No!
I'm back in high school again, but, like, anyway.
I was just like, he's a caring individual. I understand. I do like considerate people as love interest. However, I don't know. Maybe it is just the air. Like, it just, I can't.
No, yeah,
I can't.
no,
I cannot.
See,
I can't.
I think we're on different. Like, it's the scale, and it's the like. Portia's like, I can't get past this. I'm like, I can't believe I got past that.
I don't even know that's the only thing. I don't know what my brain just it's like a stumbling block. I'm like, it might be something else. Maybe there's something else behind it, and it's just I can't. That's the one thing. I'm like, I can point to this. I know that part.
Yeah.
Maybe there's more.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
So
it hits for me.
They agree, well, first off, she's like, he called me B. Uh-oh.
Hello.
What are these tingles? And why are they tingling? I don't like it. I suddenly feel sheepish. This is embarrassing, is what she said, and I said, I understand, sweetheart.
And I get that too. You have a crush on someone, and you're like, ew, this is gross. Actually, like, who asked for this?
I was in the shower washing demon blood out of my hair and busting into mage flames, and I'm feeling this way over someone calling me B. Focus.
How embarrassing for me. Like,
how
embarrassing.
It is embarrassing. She's like, I'm sitting here on my bed feeling exposed and warm and fuzzy and good for no reason at all. I like all of the emotions that you feel when you're like, God damn it, am I crushing? This is not, no one asked for this. No thank you. So she goes through, reads all of his texts. His last text is at 2:32 a.m. and it's like, you need to forfeit. I've been away too long and things are worse than I realize. I will find out what happened to your mother. I swear it. And here come Bree. I'm not quitting. No period.
I love how that's all of the like texts that she got from him, and that's the last one. She's just like, I'm gonna just let him know right now.
Like, I will examine these warm and fuzzy feelings later, but like, just let him know. I'm not quitting. And he said, I thought you might say that. They agreed that there's a dinner at the lodge later tonight, and they agree to meet an hour early to like talk it out. And then she's like, sure, fine, perfectly reasonable to meet an hour early in a secret room, just the two of us. It makes sense, and I'm not going.
She doesn't know what the secret room is yet. She doesn't know what the secret room is yet.
No, but she's like, a private place in the secret society, semi-secret house to talk about our super secret infiltration and reconnaissance partnership. It's reasonable, Bree. Like, what else? How else are we gonna do this?
You can be nervous.
Yeah, it's fine. It is what it is. Let's go to class. She heads to class, and Patricia Hartwood texts her and says, let's meet at the Arboretum at 2 after your Plants of Piedmont class. Seems appropriate, right? The Arboretum after botany. And Bree is like, oh my God, an adult. How embarrassing for you.
She's like, Gen Xers.
Yeah. Woo, dad jokes. But she knew my mama, and we gonna do what it do. So after her class, she goes to the Arboretum. It's bigger than she'd realized. She's kind of walking around, and then she sees this slate table. It's like a black granite circular table in a quiet grotto, and it's leaking a steady stream of mage flame. And sitting next to the table is Dr. Hartwood. Dr. Hartwood explains to her that the table is the Unsung Founders Memorial, and tells her to look closely at it. And the foundation of the table, or the slab, is carvings of black folks raising and holding up the slab. And it's North Carolina's way of acknowledging the enslaved and servants who built the campus. I do like, though, that she points out it was a gift from the students. Because I think, like, all of the Confederate statues, were those also class gifts, you know? Or did the...
sounds like it might have been a class gift from some people who are involved in the order a little bit, too, from how it was described.
Oh, really?
I gotta remember what it was that made me think that. That's why I was like...
she just says...
not just that, it was like...
I think the mage limb just comes from, like, where it actually is placed.
That's what I thought, too, yeah.
Yeah. But she just says... Maybe it's later in the book, and we'll figure that out. Because right now, she just says, we get this memorial, and it's something, I suppose. It was a class gift, not unimportant. But how can I be at peace when I look down and see that they're still working, you know? And I love this part, which... I bought the book on Kindle so I could take notes and not feel bad about messing up my book. And this has 682 highlights. I think it's really interesting when Kindle does this, because you're like, oh yeah, this line hit, and everybody who's reading it knows it.
Yeah.
This type of knowing is an expensive toll to pay. I can't forget the knowledge just because the price is high. And yet, sometimes we have to tuck the reminders away today in order to grow power against them tomorrow. And I think that that's, like, such a relatable thing to the Black experience, where it's like, you don't want to forget, and you can't actually forget, like, all of the struggles that your ancestors have been through in this country, and all of the struggle that you still kind of face, but you do have to compartmentalize, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to move through life, because it's not only the constant reminders in history, it's the constant, like, current battles that you're fighting and your people are fighting, and, like, to ignore them feels disrespectful and kind of self-inflicted violence. I think might be the right way of saying it. And it just doesn't seem, it seems immoral to ignore all of the history that you know and that you continue to learn about and find out. But it also, we live in a capitalistic health site, and also we want to hopefully a lot of us want to continue to, like, strive towards this progression. And to do that, you have to be able to continue to fight, and so you cannot let yourself get bogged down and feel hopeless. And sometimes the best way to do that is to compartmentalize these things and be like, okay, that's there. I'll reflect on it later, or I'll reflect on it now, and then put it in a box, and continue with, like, my mission to figure out what happened to my mom and what this order is all about, and why demons insist on mauling and abducting me and putting their blood all over me and making me have impromptu wash nights. And so I cannot do that if I stand here and stare at this memorial.
I also think it's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's... go ahead.
I was going to say that I think it's interesting that a lot of it is also, like, this is a class gift, and the class gift, and you know about the, like, demographics of UNC Chapel Hill, it's primarily white, and their idea of a memorial of, like, the Black folks who made the school, who created the school in a way that it was able to, like, actually stand on the work of Black folks, was to show Black folks at work. That was their definition of, like, memorializing. And it's, like, a reminder of two things for me, is, like, the compartmentalization, and how sometimes that compartmentalization is eroded by the actions that happen on this day. So whenever there's, like, clear erasure trying to happen, or pushing, like, whenever white feminists like to say something like, oh, women didn't get the right to work until about 1950s or 1960s, and you're like, first of all, let's be clear about which women you're talking about when you say women did not have the ability to work. Like, when you think about, you don't think about Black women as women, first of all, and when you say that, and, like, there was no, like, you pushed, like, there was, oh my gosh, like, I think it was North Carolina, there was an ad that, or, like, a newspaper clipping that showed that, around the time of the Montgomery boycotts and stuff, like white women were pushing for black women to be forced to do domestic work. They could not be stay-at-home mothers. They had to do work in their state. And it is like, it's funny how you say like how we compartmentalize, but then that gets eroded, that compartment bust open when anger hits, because you strike it, like you just bust that little compartment that I was able to make, because now I've been trying to keep it to myself, to like in a time where I can sit and strategize and think about how I can actually approach this discussion in a meaningful way, but I can't, because you say like ignorant remarks like that, and now I gotta just like come and spew out all the things that I haven't really fully been able to process yet, and that's a component of that. And then I think that was probably my main thought, was how much of like this scene kind of is a reminder of like, in even like I think it was the UNC's, how they had a board of trustees who were pushing back about the teaching of like Black history, and stuff like that. So there's so many components to this discussion, and it's like that aren't able to happen here.
It's like, obviously these things don't just happen in a vacuum, right? It's a very clear timeline. We've seen Bree deal with a microaggression a day so far. We're on track for I think not in this section that we're reading now, but in the next
started
one.
I mean, that's a full reaction.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying like interpersonally, like she's gonna have another one today as well. And so like you get those, and they seem small, right? Obviously they're microaggressions, they build on each other, but then there's also this like huge legacy, and this is a moment where we see this. We've already seen the Confederate statue, right? And it's in a much more prominent place. It's a lot bigger. It's like you're right there in the middle of the campus, where
I think it's interesting,
again,
like no one has to tell you
these things, and it's not necessarily like, again, there's a lot of nuance to this, right? Because it's like, you do want to acknowledge the work and the like toil that your ancestors were put through, and especially because it's like you would not be here if not for their strength and their
perseverance.
And so like you want to acknowledge that, but it's also then, those things kind of can feel icky when you think about like who's acknowledging that, who gets to choose how we portray that. And not everyone is going to, even if it was like Black folks who were like, no, we want it to be this or whatever, like if they not everyone, we're not a monolith, there can be a lot of different opinions on the way that we portray that. There are people who would rather forget completely, and so I really appreciated this moment, because like I think with Tracy, because we're about to get into more about like Patricia's connection with Bree's mom, and like the way these things aren't separate. They're not just like thrown in there. They actually are like woven into even the legacy of the order and Bree's ancestry, and like, and I guess that's like the point, I guess, is that like we carry all of that with us whether we know about it or not. And so it is important to like see these moments and contextualize them both within like our larger world, but then also personally. So
and I also want to say, like, when you mentioned the Confederate statues, like when Bree saw those, no one had to tell her to look closely, the way that you have to do for this memorial, because even in the memorial it's kind of minimizing, and like the table is a functional table in a grotto. But so like even in the memorial there's still like this functional working component. Like every time they use that table in that grotto, they are benefiting from the labor of these people again and again and again. They don't get like a statue where they can be in power and in a place of power and in a place of just like reflection and adornment a little bit, and so.
But it's also idle, like that. That like idle, IDLE, idle. Like it's not being utilized. It's like you can, and like also kind of reflective of those people who are on the Confederate statues. Like you might have been from a rich family and maybe you had an order or two that you gave, but like really, what did you do? Like what is your
Lost in
actual
war.
legacy? Like, your only legacy is, like, and a lot of these statues weren't even built until, like, the 50s and 60s. Like, these were not things that happened, like, right. So it's, there's so many layers, and it's so incredibly frustrating, and people like to act like these conversations don't need to happen, and or that conversation is where this should end. And it's like, no, like, if it's functionally taking up space, then we should functionally be thinking about what is taking up space and why it's there, and should it continue to be there, including this table, which again I think goes back to I guess my thought that I was trying to have there, fully bring out there, was that, like, a lot of imagination, even if there was, like, a couple of, like, token black student voices who went along with this table idea, or they thought it was a good idea, still imagine black folks at work. Like, no matter what, black folks are not at rest. They're always at work. That is the symbolism. Like, that's why that was one of the things that I don't know why I didn't really want to watch, but I still really haven't watched Princess and the Frog. It was because I didn't want to see a Disney princess who, like, her in story is she works.
Just give us some rest. So Patricia Hardwood also says, talks a little bit about her mom, or knowing her mom, and then says, these gardens are abundant with root energy. Are you not a wild crafter like your mother? And, like, that's where the chapter ends, but woo!
Blink gift
what?
Where you're like, huh?
Oops! A what? Root?
A what?
And I do want to say, like, I think, and we'll get more into, like, root and wild crafting, and at this point in the book, I remember my first read, I was like, oh, because I was like, oh, Arthur, cool, cute, whatever. I am not an Arthur girl, but everyone loves this book, and I'm going to finish it, because, I'm in, it's interesting, but I don't think this is going to be, like, the book for me. I'm gonna enjoy it, but it's not gonna stick to me like glue. And then she said, root, and your mama's a wild crafter, and I said, oh, there's levels to this shit. Let's go. But one of the things that, like, we kind of talked about this, we've talked about this before and in, like, different ways, but it really hit me in this moment, was, like, it's very hard, like, also, it's, like, learning and unlearning at the same time. So, like, Bree just found out about the order and is learning all of these terms and learning all this stuff, and she wakes up talking about how ether is coming out of her pores, right? And, like, looks at that monument and sees ether coming from, or, like, streaming out of it. And Dr. Hartwood, Patricia looks at that and sees root energy, and would have seen what happened to Bree and said, you have root energy coming out of your pores. And it's so interesting. We say about, like, how the order just colonizes, like, magic and believes that they're the only ones that can have it. They're the only ones
who can authorize,
who has it, yes, but who are also, like,
control it.
innately, like, privileged to have it when
they deserve it. It's theirs.
Well, not even that it's theirs, but, like, that if it is theirs, but, like, that also that if other people can see it and harness it, then they must be aligned with demons, and they're fraudulent or stealing it in some way, and they must be rooted out and, like, dealt with and, like, destroyed. And it's just it's such an interesting thing. It reminds me a lot of you're talking about Princess and Frog. Like, the reason why Pocahontas, which is a terribly problematic movie, I understand, but also why she's my princess and why it was my favorite movie growing up. And I, as an adult now, understand. Don't come to me, I know. But also 10-year-old Robyn is in control whenever Pocahontas comes on. It's one of those things where when you think about early colonialism and colonization, and you see them looking at gold and being like, oh, what is this? And then to the natives, they're like, that's just another, like, part of this land that, like, is useful, but isn't special. Like, in every, you know, colors of the wind, circle of life, like, it all feeds, and it's all here for each other, one another, and not having the same definitions of wealth and, like, things that are, like, wealthy or luxury, because to them that's not the point, and the point is not capitalistic to, like, hoard and garner wealth. Like, not to say that they didn't use gold, or they didn't use the minerals and, like, resources that they had, but there wasn't the sense that you needed to, like, hoard it and you needed to keep it from other people. It was put on the earth for everyone to use as they needed it, and to also give back to the earth, and to live sustainably and harmoniously with each other. And then here comes this group of people who are like, no, it's put on this earth for me to consume and control and plunder and pillage, and that's the only, like, fair way for it to be done. And so it just gets into, like, I think that the one kind of reading, the first reading, just gets into the sense of, like, what ether is, what root energy is. Like, it's all magic, and it's all a matter of, like, how you're using it, how you think about it, how it, like, works in your life, and who owns it, or who thinks that they own it. It's a resource. So
Bree is like, huh? Like, what are you talking about?
Bree is all of us in that moment. Excuse me?
She's like, I had never even heard this word before.
Bree was like, I was looking for answers about my mom. I was expecting Bree to tell me about, like, her favorite class or something.
Right.
Maybe
her connection to magic in some way, because of, like,
she thinks something,
because she is looking into, like, the Merlins or whatever.
Yeah.
But nothing where she would be learning new phrases and new, you know what I mean? Like, nothing like this, where she learns that her mother was a wild crafter, which is a branch of root craft, in which she can control and, like, control plants, essentially. But then Patricia kind of backtracks. So Bree, like, makes it clear for off jump that she does not know what any of this stuff means, and so Patricia is like,
the opposite of what she did for the order. For the order, she
right.
was like, oh yeah, I understand everything.
I know everything.
I know exactly what's going on.
Mage Flame, Ether, Merlin,
Squire.
Whereas in this case, she said, huh? And so Patricia backtracks because she's like, I don't actually know. This isn't actually my place to tell. I assumed that you knew this and that we could talk about it. But if you don't, then it's not actually, like, it's not my place. We kind of see how, or she kind of explains how, like, there are a lot of root crafters, but a lot of them have their own communities and ways of, and, like, I guess traditions, ways of practicing, that kind of thing. And so because Patricia and Bree's mom were not in that same community, she's like, I actually don't, like just don't feel comfortable, you know, trying to give more information on that when I don't really know completely. But Bree, I think understandably, gets angry, which I don't know that it's like she becomes angry as so much as she, like, is always angry, and then, you know,
she has a place to focus that anger now.
Yeah, and also it's just like one of those things where you are trying to learn about your mom and, like, what happened to her, but she's not going into that investigation thinking that there's anything that she doesn't know about her mom. Not in the sense of, like, actual, like, day-to-day stuff. Maybe in the sense of, like, I don't know what happened in that situation that would, you know, end in her being killed by this magic user. But not like, oh, my mom uses magic and she never told me that she does. And then I last night just, like, burst into Mage Flame, but she never told me that we even had anything to do with this in the first place. So, like,
yeah, I got the sense that Bree thought her mom had a similar experience that Bree is having, where she stumbled upon something that she wasn't supposed to see, and, like, was dealt with to, like, keep the secrets or something like that, but not that Bree's mom didn't stumble upon it. She's a part of it in a way.
Right.
And like and none of this sense of like magic or anything is new or shocking, or would be new or shocking to her mother. Which I think is something that you kind of, you have to kind of grapple with, like, your parents as, like, wholly individualized people that have separate lives, like, lives that started before you. And, like, not that you don't know that, but you don't really, like, I guess, internalize that there are things about your parents that you do not know. And that they purposefully did not tell you, you know? And I think it's a reasonable reaction to have. But I also think that underneath that anger is a sense of betrayal, maybe. And as we've seen, Bree doesn't always channel or point her emotions in the right direction at first. She'll get there, but like her initial reaction is mostly always anger, and then also is a kind of scorched earth approach to who happens to be in the vicinity of her anger.
Classic Scorpio. But I was gonna say that, like, I think the part of her, like, her emotional reactions is that she's like, her grief has her in a zone where there's like emotions are rolling off of her on a constant basis, and so confusion and frustrations are going to lead to anger, or like it makes it easier for her to like go straight to anger. Is like an easier emotion for her to sit with. And I think that for me, I think that like the anger is also a part of like why, like, the grief of like, I didn't get to talk to my mom about the things that she already knew she needed to talk to her mom about, that she was already grieving for herself, that she wouldn't be able to talk to her mom about in the future for her forthcoming life. And then also now she's handed a new thing to be upset about not having been able to talk to her mother about. Like, she's already grieving the fact that she's not been able to talk to her mother about things, and this is one more thing added on top of all the things, and it's just like spilling out of her right here.
Yeah.
And a quick spoiler alert, this shit gets worse. Like, the secrets in the root crafting and the wild crafting, like, it is... She doesn't even know the depth of the justification for her anger yet. Because... Yeah. Goddamn.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
So, Patricia is trying to calm her down, but Bree is like, why would I be calm about this? My mother had a secret life and she never told me. Why didn't she tell me? And again, like Robyn just said, like, she don't even know. Patricia doesn't even know.
Yeah.
Patricia gonna be finding out alongside
I feel bad
Bree.
for Patricia, because Patricia's like, apparently I hit a nerve, and I did not, like, I knew what
hit a nerve, and then also, like, she, you know, Bree's dad, just imagine, like, you get this call from this concerned father, like, grieving father, and it's like, I need you to, you know, help my daughter. She's in this new place. Her mom just died. Would you do it? Oh, you happen to know her? Cool. And you're like, okay, maybe they, you know, you'd be like, okay, I can be her therapist, but we could also talk about these other things. And then all of a sudden you find out about blood, homegirl being blood crafting. There's like all the gates are opening. Now we got to go on the run. Like, it's all, like,
It's like, a whole thing. I was just trying to help and counsel the baby. But I also, like, we find out about, like, blood crafting and stuff, too. But, like, Patricia can't even do... I can't remember this off the top of my head, but do the other root crafters, they don't have, like, an abatement type of thing. Like...
No, because
Bree's family has... Because Bree's family did blood crafting, right? And tied it to their blood. Is that why? Okay. Mm-hmm. Carry on.
And that's essentially what the spell of eternity is as well. It's not exactly the same, but similar. So Patricia is very patient, and like she's very what's the word, like, adaptable. So she's kind of like, okay, you know what? It actually kind of probably makes sense to tell you what I know, at least. So she kind of explains that there was another crafter. She was a reader, so these just other branches of rootcraft. They can read emotions, intentions, and auras, which means they can tell if someone else is a root crafter, or I think just a crafter in general, or like uses magic. And so when they were in college, one of Patricia's friends like pointed out Bree's mom, and so Patricia kind of tried to, you know, like welcome her and like try to, you know, see if they
form
wanted
a community.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And so, but Bree's mom was really kind of standoffish, was like, nah, I'm good. Which Patricia explains she didn't really think much of it because, again, like, there are a lot of folks in different communities. They have secrets. They have, like, their own traditions and stuff. So it wasn't, like, out of the ordinary for her to kind of be like, nah, thanks, but, like, no thanks type situation.
It's giving, like, for me, which X-Men movie was it? I think it was the first one where James McAvoy was in it, and they wanted to recruit Hugh Jackman's Wolverine at the bar. Mm-hmm. And they were like, hey, and he was like, don't even talk to me. Like, no. Probably Bree's mom was slightly more polite than that, but literally
I was gonna
like,
say, because it did at least seem like
they for whatever you guys are coming here for. It's not. Keep it to yourself.
No thanks. Yeah, it didn't seem like Bree's mom was like antagonistic. She was more just like, no thanks. Like, you know, they weren't like Patricia says, like they weren't close, but they weren't. There was no like antagonism,
animosity or anything.
Them. Yeah. So Bree, hearing all of this, is like panicking and just kind of reeling from all this information. Again, it's a lot building up. This is like her 4th day at this school, and a lot of shit has happened, and now she's learning this thing on top of all the other stuff, so she's like panicking. Patricia tells her to close her eyes and think of something or someone that made her feel safe in the last 24 hours. And who does she think of?
Is it our boy Nicholas?
I'm sorry. We're hitting all of the points. I'm just saying. It's unfortunate. Personally, I don't love it, but I'm here. Yeah, so she immediately thinks of Nick. So she then, once she calms down, she asks Patricia about ether. And Patricia is immediately like, where did you hear that from? She's
that
like,
word.
No. She's immediately lets Bree know that the Order is not gang. Like, we do not mess with them.
They don't mess
and
with
all
us.
The stuff they got going on.
They don't even know about us.
They don't even know about us. We don't do that. We don't do that here. So that, you know, is concerning. I mean, it's kind of like it's the end of that section or whatever, that scene. But I think it's interesting that I think it's more for, not that it's not for Bree, but it's definitely for the reader in the sense of like, she's already in this, right? We already know she's going back. She's already texted Nick. She's not someone who backs down in that way. But for us, it's definitely a like kind of click of like, okay, there's, again, the Order, they are the baddies. Regardless of like all this other stuff and how
and not the good kind of baddies either. They're not
the good kind of baddies. Not like our B and C baddies. Appreciate you. They're the bad guys. They kind of have what's the word, like they have convinced themselves that they're not. They think they're fighting this noble war or whatever, but
that is just erasure and whitewashing.
Exactly. And so it's a good moment of like tension and foreshadowing of like, clearly there's this separation, there's this difference between Rootcraft and what Patricia and Bree's mom can do and like this black community can do versus these white folks and their secret societies and like, you know, spells.
I also think it's
whatever.
It's an interesting thing too, because like you said, like I think Patricia gets a call from Bree's dad and it's like, well, she's obviously grieving her mother's death. She's obviously going through something and she's in this new environment. And yeah, maybe she just is lashing out and she needs community. And I know that her mom was a wild crafter, and so hopefully I can like get her embedded into the right community and put her on the path, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And in that one sentence of asking her about ether, Patricia's like, oh, she's already seen and been through some shit.
She's tied to.
She needs people.
And I need, not only does she need a community, but now it's like, no, she needs protection. Because
An intervention, perhaps, because why are you using magic and ether as your terminology?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's also like a very interesting. It's kind of like Nick, like you said, it's like the opposite, but very opposite of the same coin of her interaction with Nick Davis, which is like, I don't know how you know all this, but you in danger, girl, and I guess I'm here to help. Like, it's the same kind of thing, except now Nick is the one trying to, like, help her within the order, and, like, Patricia's now going to be the one to help her outside of the order, but also hopefully getting her out of the order. Sets up a lot of intrigue, and I'm telling you, this whole portion was when I was like, oh, this is my shit now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is not just an Arthurian retelling with black folk. Like, this is some good stuff.
Yeah. Wizard Team is back for a new season, and with that comes a few changes. The one we're most excited about, other than reading Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, is that the Patreon chat is back. Support our work by becoming a B&C baddie at any tier, and you'll be able to watch us record live weekly, have your thoughts included on the podcast, and interact with other baddies. Go to patreon.com/blacknerdscreate to join. So now Bree's back in the dorm with Alice. She's trying to, like, Alice is, like, trying to talk to her. You know, they're cool again. But Bree is also still thinking a lot about what she talked about with Patricia, and the mage flame that came out of her skin. And so she kind of comes to the conclusion that she's not going to tell Nick about that. Which,
thank goodness her instincts on that are legit.
That was a great...
I think like the shackles tours, what did it for her? I think her seeing the shackles was like, oh, if I am to ever hear of people of color doing magic, I'm not telling any of these folks.
Nobody. And, like, I feel bad for her in the sense of, like, Nick is kind of the only person right now who is kind of in this with her. I don't think she should tell him, but it's just more the fact that, like, she doesn't have anyone she can talk to about that at this point.
If only Alice were just, like, shooting magical sparks up, because then she'd just be like, oh my gosh, okay, so you got it too? Let's talk.
Let's talk about this.
Before she met with Patricia, Nick was the one person that she probably would have been completely open with and had no secrets from, and now... And I do think that it's something that is really interesting in terms of... I don't know if it's black culture solely, but it definitely is something that is, like, specific within, I think, black culture and, like, widely accepted of, like, Patricia being like, that's not my story to tell. I'm not a part of that community, so I don't feel comfortable, like, giving you, like, secondhand information or exposing secrets that I shouldn't be. Like, you should not be getting this information from me. I'm not the source for this. And at the same time, like, Bree immediately kind of understanding, like, I can't just be giving this information about root crafting to Nick Davis. Like,
right.
I'm not going to betray someone else's secret. And she doesn't know anything more than she, like, before she met Patricia, besides the fact that it exists and that there are communities around it. Like, she just now knows about the existence of root craft and wild and crafters, since, you know, there's different types, but it's very easily accepting an understanding of, that's not my secret to tell. It stinks because it is, like, now there's there's another secret that she's keeping, and it's from the one person that she probably thought, like, she could go all in on this journey with. But I do like that there isn't really, like, a hesitation about, like, should I tell him? Because it's not just her.
It kind of, like, it's one of those where she's just like, I don't think I should share it with him or anyone, she says. So, yeah. So Alice, again, invites Bree to Italian night. But Bree's like, I'm sorry, I can't, because I gotta go to this secret society thing.
I like how they described what the food would be. Like, what is Italian night food anyway? And you're like, soggy pasta. sad lasagna and sitting in her warmer for 2 hours.
It's a dorm like dinner. It's not.
Are they wrong?
Special. Not at all.
Exactly.
But yeah, Alice is less upset about Bree's secrets now that they're tied to this secret society. Not to put that in quotes because it is a secret society, but like, it's interesting to me that she just kind of stops having questions because that's.
I think because
there's like the precedent for it, which I understand that part, but I just not. And this isn't like me hating on Alice. It's just like it's interesting how that explanation sort of wipes away the like not necessarily Bree's guilt, because Bree definitely still feels guilty about not being able to tell Alice, but now she has a ready-made excuse to not bring her in on it.
I don't know that it fully explains everything to Alice, because I don't
it doesn't.
think
That's what I'm saying though too, is because like she came in last night looking
like
crazy,
bedraggled, and then 2 boys brought her in the night previous, and she was knocked out. So I don't think.
But I think the first one, when you think about like fraternities, secret societies, and things like hazing, that, and hazing, it answers a lot of her questions in terms of. And you could see that, like, Alice also says, like, she was hoping to get tapped by a secret society as well. So it kind of it explains to Alice.
But I wonder how much
like
of it
that
is
there's
Alice.
there's some things like hazing and stuff like that it's gonna look crazy to me, but there's an explanation, and the reason and the fact that she cannot tell me what happened is also explained in the fact that she's already kind of risking enough by even telling me that she's been tapped for the secret society. So,
right. And I like, it's a thing where like, I get it in the sense of like, this is the way these things work and are set up. It's crazy. Yeah. It don't make no sense. If my friend was like, I'm in a secret society, and they came into our room looking like Bree looked, I would still be concerned, but I also get the sense of like, okay, well, like, she's not going to tell me regardless. I know why she's not going to tell me. Like, I'm going to just have to suck it up or / maybe just keep an eye on her. But,
it reminds me of, like, what I was telling you guys about, like, rushing for like a sorority, and like, me immediately going to rush and being like, oh, this is not for me. But then if I see these girls walking around in all pink or doing crazy skits or whatever, or not, you know, it's like, okay, well, they're over there doing that thing, and I'm shocked that you are participating in this, but at least not for me, but, and then there's also the fact that you know, where there's this expectation that, like, being in these secret societies, being in these fraternities, sororities, organizations set you up in the future for like a bunch of opportunities and privilege. And so it's like, even when you're concerned, you're like, well, I get the sense, or I understand the impulse to like stick with it, because the people who come out of these are judges, senators, you know what I mean? So you're like, it's gross, but I get it, type of thing.
Yeah. So this is only for me because we have haters on this here podcast. But Bree tells Alice that Nick says she has to keep it secret, keep it safe, and yeah. See, if you just look at the screen right now, they are not impressed by this Fellowship of the Ring reference, but I love it. It makes me happy. Made me smile.
I am not Steve Rogers. I do not get that reference. It's fine. I'm glad the reference exists for the people who it exists for. I don't hate on, like, do you? But also,
does it hit that much? I mean, I guess, but like, yes. Keep it safe, keep it secret. Okay. I'm just saying, it's not like this masterpiece of writing.
It's not catchy. Like, it is not a bar. It's not a bar.
It's not a bar. Exactly. It's not a bar.
See, haters.
It's not even haters. That's legit.
No,
there's no bar. Where's the rhyme? What is the scheme?
It's a bar. It's a moment in the movie. I'm not even gonna explain it. But the point is, if you know, you know. The girls that get it, get it.
I am happy.
And I'm just saying, like,
if
if they wouldn't have followed up with, like, Alice being like, did you just Lord of the Rings me? And then Bree looking, I fellowshipped of the ring. I'd have been like, keep it secret, keep it safe.
Well, they do it in other
Keep calm and carry on.
Stuff.
Okay.
But anywho, so Alice points out that Bree sounds a little different when she says Nick's name. And Bree is trying to play it off, but you know, the truth comes out. We have a peak best friend moment, honestly, where they get to just squee over crushes. It's very cute. It's just funny because, so hold up, sorry, I'm gonna read it. So, well, I will say, like, one of the things about, like, once you finally decide to, like, tell a friend about your crush, is it, like, not that it's not embarrassing anymore, but it kind of, like, that feeling dissolves, I think, a little bit, just because then it becomes fun to, like, talk about it with someone.
It lives outside of you, so you don't feel like you're, like,
now it's, like, this other thing, and you're, like...
and putting them in your pocket. Like, someone else is also picking up little moments and putting them in their pocket, too, so y'all can both
right.
just, like...
And then you're just, like, feeding into the, like, the feeling, and then it becomes, like, this fun thing, even if there are moments where you're, like, why am I doing this? But... So, yeah. So that part is, like, cute. Alice asks what Nick looks like. And of course, she goes into the blonde hair and blue eyes. But then she goes, and he looks like a gladiator, like those oddly hot dudes on the sides of pottery from ancient Greece, tall and athletic, and then she thinks about him pointing her to safety with his sword, eyes hardening with both fear and focus, and says heroic. So yeah, she's kind of what's the word? She's gone. Or she's going. She might not be completely gone,
on her
but
journey.
She's going.
She's on the
She's on the way. She's on the way there. So yeah, it's very cute that they are just like, you know, they get this like best friend moment, especially as they're like, I guess as they're still kind of reconciling and trying to like be cool again. Nothing brings friends together like gossiping about a crush, honestly. So yeah, so that's kind of where we end. Alice has to go to dinner. Bree's about to go meet Nick, and again, we do get some of like Bree's guilt at not being able to like explain more to Alice, but it's no longer like a source of like mutual tension between them, because again, there's that explanation of her being in a secret society or trying to get into a secret society, that kind of softens that a bit. So that's where we leave that chapter.
So chapter 20 picks up where Bree literally, like in the last chapter, was just sitting on the bed in like silent contemplation of her phone before she started having this conversation about Nick, because she's waiting to hear a message from him, which I didn't get, because literally he told her like, we're gonna talk in a secret place at whatever time. I don't know what she thought was gonna be a follow-up to that, but apparently she was looking for some follow-up. She didn't get it.
I mean, I think she's going. She's she's about to fall off this cliff, so she's just like, I'm just checking my phone for no reason. I think she knows there's no reason for him to text her, but she's hoping she'll catch the bubbles moving or something. I get it, she's, but also just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what she thought. I don't get it for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. So of course, when it's time to come to the lodge, she's there. But Evan answers the door. They have a little chat. But before she even gets to see the person she's there to see, Nick, after she's having a little back and forth with Evan, Nick gestures her upstairs. When she gets on the landing where Nick is, Felicity and Russ pop out,
And this is just like, for me, it just sets the mood for the chapter, which is very much a flirtation chapter. Because, yeah, there's a rush that Felicity and Russ are now feeling now that she has been called by her scion. And so there's a lot of little innuendos happening in their interaction that Nick is picking up on. Like, it's making Nick blush, the way that they're interacting with each other. So there's a lot of things going on with their connection, or connections, plural. How
it's
they're
interesting
giggling.
to see. Yeah, it's interesting to see because I think there's only one other bonded group here, or yeah, like one, because it's like Evan and Fitz are, but they have been for a minute, and then like the other ones that have their pairs haven't been awakened yet. So it's just interesting to see like the initial, I guess, effects. But also,
it also, to me, is super funny that like these teenagers get to choose their like squires and like bring people in, because you have like now Fitz and not Fitz, but Russ and Felicity, Tor and Sarah, Nick and Bree. It's like, you horny bastard. Like, focus. But I mean, that's just me.
Thinking, I'm just like wondering if they knew that was a thing, that these pairs react this way because of how.
But I also think it has to do with who awakens them too. Like, I'm sure they get different. Like, it's definitely based off of like their personality, or like the personalities of the knights or whatever. I mean, I wonder if there's like journals or something somewhere. It's like, oh yeah, this scion from however long ago, from the 1700s, wrote about this or not. Like,
well, I mean, for the lower ranked scions, like they get awakened more often, so they probably know. And there's this kind of like, I don't know for sure that this will happen, but this is what I've heard from like the lower ranked ones who get awakened more often. So there might be like a little bit of word of mouth.
I would say
too.
word of mouth, but I'm saying I don't know that they would each have the same experience being awakened, because it's a different person.
Yeah.
Like a different knight or whatever.
But I do think, because we can see with Cell and stuff like that, I do think that there's some sort of level of like adrenaline rush, ether drunk type of like energy,
especially if it's like your first
explosion
time.
that like lends itself to this sort of carrying on if you want it to. You know what I mean?
Emotions are heightened.
I can also yeah.
So it's funny because the power is manifested already with this couple, with Felicity and Russ, and so she kind of like bumps into him flirtatiously, but she's not used to her strength yet. But then Russell's able to recover because he just like crouches down in superhero pose and recovers from it. And we find out, conveniently, part of the giggling is also related to where they are. So whenever they're all on this landing, Nick and Russ walk off. I mean, Felicity and Russ walk off, but Nick leads Bree to a room. Guess what? It's his bedroom. So he's called Bree to a meeting in his bedroom, and she was not late. Okay. I definitely had bedroom resounding like bedroom in my head. When I read this, I was like, oh no, it's literally a meeting in this man's bedroom. Okay.
I mean, where else are they gonna go? I get it. It's but yeah, it's giving.
In terms of like secret, privative, that's not a word. Secretive and private spots to have a conversation that are also, if shit pops off, you're surrounded by people who know what to do. It's a good choice, like, tactically.
And I think also, like, I don't know where he's living on campus or whatever, but he might have a roommate. Like,
There's not
like
as
you
much
could just-
privacy there.
You can't meet in the coffee shop, like. So, there's that too.
I'm not
Definitely can't meet
saying
in
that
Bree's
Nick
room,
had
'cause-
like intentions in that way.
No, but it's still,
I'm just
your
saying
eyes
it's a
emoji.
very fun
Yeah,
setting.
with the
I think Nick was like, you know, if she's comfortable, she's comfortable.
Well, I think he was thinking.
This is the best space for our powwow.
I think he was thinking that like the optics of it all, like it won't be weird if Bree shows up in my bedroom because like all the other pages or whatever, like they probably are all like this is a typical kind of thing. Like yes, I can have this conversation that I need to have with Bree privately. And no, it won't be suspicious to anyone in the order because this is a typical.
And I think too,
interaction.
especially after the night before, like they didn't have a chance to talk. Like they haven't gotten a chance to talk yet, and like
Yeah.
I feel like Russ was there when Bree was like, "Oh shit, Nick left."
Yeah.
So like they.
Why did he leave me?
So yeah, there it's not conspicuous for a lot of reasons, but interpersonally, just between the two of them, it's a little
forward, which is
It's a little
even
forward.
more.
Also, I think too, like Bree just having this like download
Right.
with Alice and stuff, and she's like, "Oh, I'm in the bedroom. I'm in the bedroom."
like if she was
He
allowed
called
to
me
talk
B,
to
now I'm
Alice
in the
about this,
bedroom.
she would be like all caps, like what's it called, key smashing in Alice's text right now.
Yes.
Yeah. So the forwardness of the location underlies what's starting to happen between them in the actual room itself, because this is the door's barely closed when Nick reaches for her body. But literally he's like touching the like test like where she like got hurt, and
Wait, but he engulfs her in a hug first.
yes,
Again, this is
Back
this
hug.
is my shit, unfortunately. Just turn it up.
like she's engulfed in his arms. She smells his laundry, and it's like a warm cloud. His hands are so large they span the whole of her spine. The heat from his palms radiate out from where he clutches her, and his face is tucked into her neck when he mutters, "That thing was going to kill you right in front of me, and all I could think was that it was my fault for bringing you in." And him saying that pricks the guilt that she has in her eyes.
Bro, I'm sorry. They've only known each other 2 days. This is serious. I know we got some magic stuff happening here. We've discussed the Lancelot Arthur of it all. They have this connection. They just met each other or whatever, but and I'm not one for I love a slow burn. Give me a slow burn every time. But it kind of hits.
They start having a whole conversation while fully embrace each other. Like they don't even they don't even move. They don't part. And once they start talking, like they're still they're still embraced as they begin to talk, having a conversation.
The tropes are tropes for a reason.
Because they work.
And when you string them together and you got the talent to write it out, if it works, work it. If it works.
I suppose.
Oh, poor Porshèa. I do think though, and I think I might have said this before, like Bayana, I love a slow burn. I also love a forced proximity, and this is also that a little bit too. But I do love that Tracy walks this line between insta-love and insta-lust, because I hate insta-love. I don't like it. Insta-lust I kind of get intellectually. I couldn't be me, but I get it. And so there's this this kind of playing with the trope of you being like, is this like an instant thing? But then you find out afterwards, like the connection is actually like the Lancelot,
you know what I mean?
Arthur.
Like, they both have a crush on each other. It's a mutual situation. They're working together in this like very high stress situation. Those things can also push you together, and like they're teens, like.
And it's her first time away from home. Yeah. He's been away from home.
Yeah.
Already. But for her,
Yeah.
this is the first time she's able to explore these feelings outside of like whatever she
Without
she didn't
thinking
even
like, oh shit, I gotta go home
having a
with my dad.
crush,
Like,
or having a crush
Yeah.
at school and like going home to write in her diary about it later. Like that was the extent of her interactions.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it does feel very real. I think it like we keep saying like how many days it's been just because it's really like a reminder for myself because I think reading it
It feels like months.
in a regular way and not in a we're reading 3 chapters a week, it feels like it's a lot more time because so much happens in this time. And so but like all of this is happening back to back. This book is like very like just it just keeps going. And so it's not just like they've only known each other 3 days. It's also like we've only been in this world for like 4 days.
Disney princesses have married in shorter time periods than this,
right?
So.
Like
This is true, but that's what I'm saying too. Is like I like that you can read it, and there are moments when you are reading it, and your brain just goes straight to like trope, straight to like, oh, this is it. They're gonna be together forever. And I think that she does it purposefully so that then when she's like, oh, and also this, you're like, oh, you know what I mean? And I just like, I kind of love how she like plays with like our emotions in this way. That like the second time you read it, you're then, with the knowledge that you have, you're then like, oh, there's like, it's more nuanced. It's more, it's not just surface level. And yeah, like when I feel like when I first read them like holding each other and being, I was so worried about you, I forgot that she had just gotten snatched up by a demon. She had ether flames in the shower. She just found out that her mama was a wildcat. It's like,
she needs a hug.
Oh,
She
they're in the
needed a hug.
bedroom. There's only one bed, and then you're like, she needed a hug. It's just beautifully crafted. That's it. Go ahead. Moving on.
Yeah. So, as we're taking in this very mutual romance blossoming here, also taking in the room itself, and Bree notices that it's like in a state of like disuse. It doesn't seem like he actually uses it very frequently. And she does notice, however, that there are like some pictures that are stored there. And in looking over them, starts engaging with Nick over conversations about it. And she notices a blonde woman who shares the same smile that Nick has, and a picture of like the woman Nick, a younger Nick and his father in one photo. And Nick informs her that was author seat in Edinburgh, that his father took them for summer vacation, which is like, this man lives, breathes, like bleeds his quote unquote heritage. And like you spend your summer vacation taking, like, did your family actually want to go there? Or were you just like that? You don't even take anything into part for that.
I don't remember. It was some point in this chapter that I wrote it, but so my sister and my mom have been watching Dance Moms. And like, Lord Davis is a dance mom. Like, he's a stage parent. He's like just, putting all of his hopes and dreams, and like, he didn't get it when he didn't get the glory he wanted when he was a kid, but he has his son, and he's just like, I'm putting all of my all into you.
It's a second chance.
It's like very uncomfortable.
He's like, I will live vicariously through this boy, who, again, he was like little. He was not the current age that he is. This was when he was still, like, you could call him a boy, and that's what he was. He was not a teen. He was not a blossoming young man. He was literally a child. And so Bree.
It's also interesting too, because not to. I mean, I guess kind of to humanize Lord Davis a little bit. Like, I do get it. Like, when you hear William talking about, like, we're born to being told, like, this is what we're put on this earth for, and this is our destiny, and this is, and like all, like, Lord Davis was also born and told that and grew up being the scion of Arthur and all of this stuff. So obviously you would hope that he was more well-adjusted. But apparently not. But, like, I do kind of get the impulse of, like, and not to, it's a, he has a break from reality, or I don't know, it's a failure on his part, not to, like, take any of his culpability away, but, like, I can see how you get there, and how you really do want, like, to, in your lifetime, like, see all of this work and all of the sacrifice, like, made worth it, I guess. And so, or all that, or, like, to attain the glory that you've been told is your birthright. So, like, yeah, I don't know how to say that with also, like, just reiterating, like, no, this dude's a piece of shit and he's a bad guy, and, like, a lot of people die because of his, like, quest for glory, but, like, I do understand the stage bomb. I understand how he got there.
Definitely makes
sense.
But
it also seems like he's trying to get the buy-in from Nick and from the former wife. Like, he was like, I need them to be as invested in my glory dreams as I am. And it's like, but again, did you ask them what they wanted to do this summer? You just, like, sprung, this is a trip of your own imagining? Or does everyone get a trip every summer and this was just a summer that was your time? Hopefully that's the case. I somehow doubt it. Especially given the amount of training that Nick was put under and how early we know Cell was connected to him. And, like, where's Cell? There's so many questions. And not only do I have questions that I'm bringing up here, but of course, Bree, who is living through this, has questions, and she mentions that Nick looked happy, and Nick says we were then, and she also states that you never talk about your mother, and he turns, his smile turns down to one end, and he just says another day. So clearly, where the therapist hit a sore point for Bree, and Bree reacted outwardly, Nick takes it inward, and he's like, I can't do that. Like, we can do that another day. This is not the time for me to do that.
Yeah. But I also, like, he doesn't shut her down necessarily. He's like, 'cause I don't even think, it feels like, you know, now is not the time. I'm not ready to have that conversation, but I might at some point, you know, like, we can maybe talk about it later, but he's not like, it's not a, like, it's not a never. It's not like a. It's a hint into something else, but not like big angst moment, I guess.
Yeah, and we're not the only ones thinking about time and how quickly things are moving into deeper places for Bree, because Bree is as well. Bree mentions that it's only been 48 hours since Nick studied her the way that he currently is, whenever he first met her. And in another 48 hours, she will know more about her mother's magic and maybe even her own. Which leads, funnily enough, we go from her own magic into descendant of Arthur discussion. Which, again, foreshadowing, for clues. They talk about, like, why he didn't tell her. They didn't have time. We know that. But then she asked him that, like, you're the descendant of King Arthur, and he says, I'm not the descendant, I am one of many. And I'm like, poor child, you don't know how on the nose you are for how you are, but what?
This
even in this your own bedroom.
When you know the truth. When you know the truth, it's so interesting because, like, obviously neither of them knows.
It's also funny,
but it's just like,
and it's also funny coming off of.
Yeah, it's just interesting because to like as he's explaining it, like I'm a descendant of Arthur, whoop de whoop. Like, he probably has some cousins who are actually descendants of Arthur at this point, but still, like, he's just, I'm a descendant, and Bree's over here like, I can't believe you didn't tell me. Meanwhile, girl,
you haven't been told a lot of things.
You haven't been told a lot of things,
right? It's also funny just coming off of the conversation about Lord Davis. And just thinking about Nick's perspective on it, like, he's like, I'm a descendant. But you know that Lord Davis is like, you are the descendant. You are Arthur. You are the, you know what I mean? And so it's just really interesting how you can feel Nick. I feel like his response to Bree isn't just for Bree's sake, but also for his own sake and, like, his own grounding, and something that he's probably said, like, hundreds of times before he finally was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm out. Don't call me. Don't text me. I'll, whatever. Because I think he does not want to feel like a chosen one. And all of the kind of things that come along with that. So
I can also feel for him that we know that there are like 9 other people who are also training to take the spot if someone should have to come out, right? So it's like he's like, I got 9 other cousins that if I dip, they can take the mantle. I don't have to be here, and he was willing to do that. And he talks about that in discussion with Bree about how he was like willing to leave it, but it also it came off as like a childish kind of protest. Also, interesting enough, was he gets more passionate about like just engaging Bree in this discussion and like invoking to her like how important it is for her to leave, get out right now. It's the end of you in the order, please, Bree. He is like, I need you to like. It's important that you leave because like this. It's not just that like how much people are risking behind it, how much like I would have to risk or whatever. I see what's happening. It was one thing whenever I thought it was just me forsaking like this like mantle, but it's a whole other thing now that I know that we're getting closer and closer to a Camelon happening again. That has not happened since the 1700s, and I truly do not want you to be wrapped up in this. Like, I pulled you in, and I'm telling you right now, you need to get out. And Bree is like, I actually pulled you back into this, and I understand that you have concerns, but I think I can do this. And he's like, okay, but it's not just the Camelon of it all either. It's also that once you get to a certain stage, you're gonna get sworn in, and no matter what, you're gonna go through the abatement. And Bree's answers are, I am an oath, not an oath breaker. I'm a non-oath taker. I can break out of the ability to take oaths, so I can resist any oaths that are put in front of me. And he's like, but if anybody you take an oath with, your scion will know that you're not under oath, and they can like report you, and you'll be out of here no matter what. And then she counters that with like, it doesn't matter. I have to do this for my mother. She would do the same. And I'm like, would she though? Would your
she was
mother,
definitely trying to make you not come out here. She really did not want you here. So
it sounds like your mother kept a lot of things to herself, and it's not sound like she was interacting with people that would blow her cover. So I don't know where you're getting the assessment that she would do the same risk taking for you.
I mean, she might do it for Bree, but
it gives me the Amari and like Quentin thing, where like Quentin wouldn't, and like Magnus being like, well, Quentin wouldn't want you to put yourself in danger. Isn't that what all of this was about? Like, him making sure that you were safe? Like, I don't think he would enjoy waking up and figuring out you done killed yourself when he went through all this work to make sure that that wasn't the outcome. So, yeah. You can convince yourself of anything when you want it badly enough, absolutely. I guess. And that's what Bree's doing.
And that's what Mr. Davis is doing, too, by saying that Nick... that Camelon must happen, and Nick must be brought back into the fold, because we need this all to come to a head. And then this is why Camelon is so quickly approaching. And as much as he knows Nick, he knows his son, and Nick is noble. And Nick even says to Bree at the end of this discussion to wrap this chapter up, he says he does not want to be needed by the Order, but he also can't let his friends face Camelon on their own. Like, he's trained for this his whole life. He has a retractable sword to prove it. He is not...
I do appreciate that he left, but
he kept
knows
that thing
that
on
he
him.
can't just be walking around without
He kept
protection.
that thing on him.
He's like, no, exactly. He's like, I'm not about to be, I'm not in the Order, but if a demon roll up on me, I'm not going to get caught slipping. Like,
yeah. I also like that he also is like very clear-headed about like, I walked away, but that shit is symbolic. Like, because we were saying, like, how can you really give up the title if you're awakened, you're awakened, you know what I mean? So he was like, I said I didn't want to be a part of your little, like, festivals and your hoity-toity nonsense, but I also know that, like,
push come
there
to
is
shove.
no
But also he
walking
was like,
away.
but to be fair to Nick, he was also like, when I dipped, there was like little to no chance that I would be called. Like, it has not been called
Right.
in so long. Like, I knew, yes, it was symbolic to an extent, but also it was like very unlikely that I was going to be needed, period. Like, I was probably not going to happen. So why does it matter if I'm here or not?
Exactly.
Now he's like, looks like it matters. Guess I'm back.
Looks like it's going to rain. What a shame.
And guess I'm back. And since it matters, maybe you should go on your way. 'Cause...
Okay, who is your MVP?
I am going HBCU on this. So many of the professors that had achieved their doctorates and were teaching at the HBCU were like, it took so much for Black folks to be able to put doctor in front of their names. So I'm going to call Dr. Patricia, Dr. Hartford, or Dr. Patricia whenever I talk about her, just because of that old HBCU tradition. I know what she says. I'm it's like ingrained in me at this point. So Dr. Patricia is my MVP. She definitely, like, I loved for that she's a therapist by trade, so she knows how to like get people in a place where they can listen. So I appreciate that she brought that into like her discussion with Bree when Bree was having her moments where she was kind of like unable to process. I'm glad she was able to pull her back, but I also enjoy that her professionalism doesn't override her understanding of what Bree needs from her personally in that moment, which is like understanding of root work and understanding of what little she does know about her mother. So I appreciate she's able to like balance that, and I think it gave a lot to Bree in a time where Bree really needed it. And so yeah, and she could have easily like have gotten that phone call and from Mr. Matthews and been like, that might be a conflict of interest, so I don't think if I want to do this. But I'm glad she did it. I appreciate that she's in Bree's life now, and we'll see how we know where it goes. But I love that we see where that goes.
Agreed. I think she's also my MVP. On like a plot level, I also love that she just like throws another wrench into this and just like adds another layer to this world and like the way magic is used. And so yeah, like for all the reasons that Porshèa just said, but also for that, it just like ups the stakes and the tension and like the mystery of the whole thing in a way that's really cool.
Same. I did Dr. Patricia for mostly every reason that's already been laid out. I also do love the sense that you get. It's a short interaction, but you know that she's going to play a role, and she's going to be like, immediately you understand that she's going to be there for Bree, and not just because of like already like pretty quickly. Like Porshèa said, like it could be a conflict of interest and all the stuff around like, from a relationship standpoint of like therapist and client, but she kind of sets up auntie vibes. Like, I am, like, your dad is not here and you refuse to call him back, but I will be here. I will be looking out for you. I will give you the information that you need to know when I can. And I'm gonna treat you like an adult and keep your autonomy. And I'm not gonna tell you what to do, but I'm gonna be a support. And you get that in a very quick interaction with her. And so, at least I think you do. I don't know if I'm reading a lot of my rest of my knowledge into it, but I feel like you got that pretty quickly, and that to me is like very MVP worthy, because we need adults in the room.
It's
like,
one of those things where like you just with like YA in general, it's like, yeah, obviously the center is the and middle grade. Like, the center is obviously like the kids. They have to drive the story. They have to, like, you know, be at the center. But then there are moments where it's like, no, but you need even if it, like, she's out here wilding, yes, but she has at least two adults who she knows will be and then like Patricia is so early on or whatever, but at least in that moment it's like somebody who's safe, somebody like you might not be able to tell everything to, but she's there in that moment. So yeah. Benched. I said Lord Davis for being a dance mom. Needs to chill.
I basically said Lord Davis as well, but like I just put it on all of the regents. I just, again, I don't know how old Felicity and Russ are. I think that they're in their 20s.
I think they're early 20s, yeah.
At least like early 20s, late teens, but like, and I personally am a prude, but I am not a prude for other people. Like, you do what you gotta do and what you want to do. But I also think there's something to be said about having some adults in the lodge or in the space who have gone through awakening before, because imagine just what could go wrong. The way that she just threw Russ's ass across the room and is still getting used to her strength, getting used to her temper. What if Russ didn't want to be all up in the room with her? Like, you know what I mean? Like, we don't get that sense, thank God. But like, there just seems to be a lot of ways I could see this going wrong on all sides. It just it reminds me a lot of like Will's explanation about the Order and the Regents and the Legendborn and all of the ways my brain was like, this is a terrible setup. I get the same thing in not just that interaction between Russ and Felicity, but also like Nick's telling of Bree and giving Bree some more background into like what he's going through, and just, yeah, the dance mom of it all, of glory and power and all this stuff, but just like a lack of like really caring for these kids holistically, and not just what they can do for the Order, what they can do against this fight and for Camelon and all that stuff, but like, how do you care for them through this process? If we accept that this is something that is fated and they have to go through it, like, how do you help them go through it in a healthy and whole manner? And I don't
we
think
don't see no therapist in their Order.
No.
Nope.
They only have William.
Besides William, and William is also a child.
He's also their only healer in this spot. Like, he should have been one of the first people they bonded somebody with or gave him a squire to. Like, how has he gone this long without a squire?
And
he needs a therapist.
He's not he's sort of medically trained. He's not even completely he's not a doctor. He's in school to be a doctor.
If it's still at the undergrad level, then you're not even on the level where you're like actually interacting.
Right, he's not in med school.
He's not okay. So like, for those
magic that
reasons,
helps, but
yeah. For those additional reasons, I also included the regents in my bench, mostly because this setup is just not great overall, but also the fact of like, when I think of the setup, I'm thinking again about Camelon is only approaching because of the regents. Like, it's all manufactured. This is all their fault.
I think it's Lord Davis specifically.
But he's one of the regents too.
Still.
Like, it's them. And they're all in this move to make things happen for what reason but their own gain, and at the detriment of the people who are going to actually have to be involved in the fight, which are the children, and manipulation of these children, young adults, which is just like unfortunate. Like, whenever I ended this round of chapters, I'm like, that has to be who the bench is for, at least for the end of that chapter. But I guess like a part of what I was thinking that perhaps the Order had a hand in the monument, was that like, I don't know, for a minute I was like, if that has anything to do with alumni and the Order's involved, like, them regents got to catch hands for like, this is what y'all thought like a good monument to Black folk who were part of the school was like. And we know that Black folks built like UNC was built for the Order in this like conception of the UNC Chapel Hill, so that was also a component of it all. Two, I benched, probably an unpopular opinion, but I don't care. I benched Bree's mom, Faye Matthews, because you did not tell your daughter anything. And I understand, like, trying to keep her safe, but I don't think that ignorance is everything that keeps anyone safe. I've never seen it actually work. I think there's a level of, like, I understand not telling someone everything, but give some, like, a little bit of something. And Bree had no idea that root work was at least even a thing in their family, or that her mother had it. And I'm like, I don't know what her plans were for when she decided she was gonna finally tell Bree, or she was just gonna try to like stomp it out and like not show anything to Bree. But it clearly, to me, it just like it led to her and Bree's relationship being where it was on the night that she died, because she would have been holding all these things from her. And then Bree is coming to campus, and now she's learning that complete strangers know more information about her mother and what her mother was hiding from her than she knew. And I can't imagine putting someone in that position, like someone that I love. I would never want to put someone in a position where they don't have enough information about me to do what they need to do moving forward should I not be around. Like, it's especially to a child, like it just seems like you're setting them up for failure in a way. And I really feel bad for Bree to an extent that happened. And I understand that there's a level of anxiety and stress behind Faye's decisions. So I'm not trying to discredit that she had her reasons, but I also don't think they were the right things to do. So she gets my bench for that.
I feel like that's fair.
Yeah, I think I think that's fair. I also don't remember exactly what like the trigger is, and I think she's trying to like kind of hold off that transfer trigger because she knows that like once Bree kind of gets more involved, I guess, and that hastens, like she's gonna die young. But I do think that also knowing that you're gonna die young makes it even more like important that you let Bree know as much as possible at every stage that is correct, because what we learn later on is that like the blood crafters in her family, like they die in different ways, and like they die young. They only usually have one child, and it's usually a daughter, but like it's not like, oh, I'm gonna get sick and like get hit by a bus, you can get sick. Like there's like it comes in like different ways, and so you can't, I guess again it's like an ego type of like I'm gonna outsmart death thing, but you can't outsmart death, and so it becomes even more vital. Not that you know tell her everything when she's like at once, but you start to kind of set her up so that it's not, like you said, like it's not a complete shock and she's not learning from a total stranger, because even Bree's dad doesn't have the knowledge to impart that on her. And you would hope, since they've been married, that she knows the kind of man he is and that he's not gonna like abandon his daughter. So it could even be like writing it in a note and being like, if anything happens to me, make sure that when Bree hits this age, you give her this, or let me tell you some things, or people to make sure that she knows at a certain point, you know. You can set that up and still protect her in the ways that you think are great, are right, without leaving it all to chance and just assuming that you're going to be around when the time comes.
Especially when you know your family dies early. Like that is just like willfully, like willfully obtuse. Like you know that you have a tendency to like die early. So like, where's your backup plan? Like, what is there? I was gonna say that the dichotomy between Lord or Sir Davis, whatever. I'm not gonna call him Lord because I refuse. Him like the level of non-protection for Nick, like he assumes like the Order's level of protection around the author figure is enough protection, and so that his son, he probably doesn't really see his son's proximity to like the Camlon of it all as something to be too threatened and scared by, so he doesn't see a need to do. He's throwing Nick into very unprotected spaces without really thinking about it that way, versus Faye, who's being overly protective beyond the grave by not saying anything. So they're both using the same system of not saying anything and keeping their kids like unaware of like what their actual like motives and like what's actually happening around them. But at the same time, there's like it's hard when you share the game strategies of a villain. You kind of have to like reconsider your like what you're doing. Like, is this the best path for me? Right? What does that mean? So I think it's also interesting that those two parents exist in this story and they have the same method, though for different means.
All right. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week to discuss chapters 21 through 23.
Wizard Team is part of the Black Nerds Create Collective. If you want to keep up with our content, you can check out our website at blacknerdscreate.com and follow us on Instagram and Tumblr at Wizard Team Pod and Black Nerds Create.
Bye, y'all.
Bye!